Namaskar. Hello and welcome. My name is Daniel Rakani. I am a healer, a teacher, and a shaman. And today I'm going to be presenting a talk on humankind's oldest initiatory rite of death and dismemberment. This ancient shamanic initiatory rite generally signals the maturing of the practitioner when they do the dismembering journey. But as you can see, I feel this is being called for more and more in today's modern world for us to disconnect the illusion of our mind and body, to reconnect to our true personhood, our soul, that so many have become disconnected from, dispirited from. And so we're able to reconnect spirit to our physical body. Our first gift from spirit is our body. And when it's interwoven with our true personhood, our soul, we are actually walking around as a divine human with sacred activism to help the people everywhere. Now, with so many unconscious in the world at the moment, and these new energies all coming in and people trying to awaken, this ancient old rite is being called again to step forth and help humans once see what they no longer see. Most people are trapped in the illusion of this false identity, who they really think they are, coupled with their wounding and the traumas that they've carried and accrued for their entire life. They're actually wrapped in darkness. So their light cannot illuminate and shine out to the world in this world wide web and this interconnectedness with their brothers and sisters, the tree people, the plant brothers, and the animal brothers. Many in the West look to the East for gurus, the dispeller of darknesses, where in fact we, as a sacred human being, can dispel our own darkness. And I feel this shamanic rite, though often frowned upon to share to the uninitiated with contemporary practitioners, I feel some of the elder shamans and shamans of yesteryear were not facing the things en masse that the people of today are, and then the shamans must have to deal with. So sharing this knowledge, I feel, is key, not for people to become a shaman, but for people to reconnect with their illuminated true self. So what is this death and dismemberment we talk of? This is not only unique to shamanism. Every major spiritual path will go through a great death, whether it's Vajrayana Buddhism or Sufism or like the Shiva Shakti movement, even the Christianity, mysteries of life, Christ's teachings, initiations could be looked at as, one big death and dismemberment. But this is one thing that people aren't being initiated into anymore, as it is that one thing that most people in society are truly scared of, facing and confronting their own death, their deepest innerst fears. Now, the language of spirit, it cannot be comprehended in ordinary reality terms. We cannot listen to it, think about it with our mental nature. The spiritual vibrations, to be understood, must be experienced. One must have to live through this and go through this. For no one who hears the song of spirit remains without a voice. And when we start to pull this false self apart, we open up to limitless potential. Our identity is formed by every little interaction we've had in our life, every conversation, every encounter, everything good, bad, indifferent that this stimuli has taken on through our consciousness or subconscious mind. It forms an energetic memory chain within our being that forms our identity, who we think we truly are, but we're not. And then we project that out to the world, to the mass consciousness, the interwoven collective consciousness, and then it's mirrored back to people who we think we are. This personal history holds us hostage to a massive store of energy, if liberated and restructured, opens us up to space, the element before rebirth, and we are reborn as a sacred divine human as our true self steps forward and takes the controls of this physicality, this body, the first gift that was given to us via spirit is our body. Now you can look at many teachings from many teachers from the last 2,000 years, but one example possibly could be the metaphoric example of Christ pulling down the temple, the great Judaism temple of that time, saying spirit doesn't belong in a building of stone and wood, but spirit really belongs within our vessel, this meat suit that we have. And when we pull away the darkness and we step forward in illumination, this is the most sacred temple filled and housed with the most holiest aspect of every being, our true self, our soul. So death and dismemberment is exactly how it sounds. And the ways it can occur are numerous and individual, just like every person. It can be your body is torn apart by animal spirits. Forces of nature can disintegrate you like a strong wind turning you into 1,000 million grains of sand. But what one of the first underlying lessons is of the death and dismemberment process, as the practitioner is sitting there watching their body being destroyed, the one thing that remains is awareness. And here is the first lesson of death and dismemberment. Once we let go of attachment, we move into permanence versus impermanence. We see the impermanence of this physicality, that we will drop off at the time of our death, and we will see the permanence of our spirit. After dropping off this meat suit, it will move on to its next stage of existence. During the death and dismemberment process, we melt back into the consciousness, the divine consciousness. Our true self melds into this divine universe, into this consciousness, and we remember who we are. We remember where we come from. And then we have insights in what we're supposed to do. After the rebirthing, after the melding into consciousness, the ecstatic union of divine consciousness and our true self, the remembering process begins. We start to get put apart, put back together. Spiritual gifts are infused. Personal history is erased. Memory, all gone. Injuries, limiting belief structures. Now this is the true benefit of this dismembering process. Whatever no longer serves is gone. We start again with a clean slate. For me, I was truly, truly blessed to fall off a multi-story building and have a dismembering process in ordinary reality where I was paralyzed. It allowed me to dismember right now, and after having 3 decades of cultural conditioning, false personas and bad habits, they were all gone. And here I stood, a soul with clarity, a free human being understanding what my mission was and what I had to do in this lifetime. I moved away from the egoic self, the 5 sensory world that I was swimming in somewhat addictively, and I started to walk the path, illuminated, knowing. And here's the second point. Even though the medical system of healing didn't understand what happened, because I was never supposed to walk again, I was never supposed to have bladder or bowel control or sexual function, because why would I? I was paralyzed. It's a long, long story to understand what had happened in this point, but basically my true self come back and healed me. And this is the second point. Our souls have infinite capacity to heal. Our bodies have infinite capacity to regenerate. We forget this as we're handed diagnosis. As someone says, you're stage 4 cancer, you're dying. We believe. We tell our mind this is what we are. Our mind sends our body clock. You've got 4 months to live and it starts ticking backwards. We need to create a moment of homeostasis where everything comes into balance and we allow our spirit to take over and heal its temple. You just need to get out of the way. And this false self and this conditioning, these are the things that get in the way. Who we think we are, this egoic, narcissistic little human being, is your biggest obstacle to healing and awakening. Now, during the death and dismemberment process, generally 5 stages within the whole process. The stage 1 is the core, the intention to do this. Now, as shamanic practitioners do it a part of their training, their intention is to go off and do a journey to find the dismembering spirits that are going to help pull them apart and put them back together. Other calls happen as spontaneous calling from spirit to the initiate to walk the path, and they have no choice. Believe me, I've run most of my life, they still come. The other is the form of a life crisis. Now in the West, that often goes undiagnosed as people are tied into handing their power of spirit over to religion and their power of health over to medicine, who aren't equipped to deal with the recognition of what is happening for this being. You know, it might be that God has a plan that you have to be sick and die, or you've got this terminal illness, we need to give you this pharmaceutical program. Unaware that their soul is actually bringing this energy forth for them as the catalyst to awaken and realize, I'm not supposed to be an accountant. I'm supposed to be walking this path. I have a soul contract and a purpose in this lifetime. This is the catalyst for the person to start walking a more spiritual path in this physical body. Now, the second stage of the dismembering process is pretty much the dismembering. You're chopped, you're cut, you're burnt, you're smashed, your body is ripped apart. And this can be really confronting, especially for people who have such an innate fear of death, who are attached to the physicality, disconnected from their spirit. This can be really overwhelming. But the main point of this is acceptance. Acceptance of the situation and the unattachment to the body, letting that attachment go to the physical realm. Once you do that, the resistance goes. When we surrender, less resistance, less pain. The more we resist, the more suffering. So during that acceptance period, you sit there, your body is destroyed, your awareness remains. And then the stage 3 of the dismembering process is the death and darkness. There's a moment within the actual process that there's complete nothingness. You were literally gone. You were dead. Before you move and your true self and awareness and consciousness goes in ecstatic union and melts up with the divine consciousness. This is where we start to remember where we've come from and who we are and what we were supposed to do. This is such a beautiful thing. Hang on.
Can I get off my dress wiggles?
We're going to have lunch in a sec. Give me a second. Then the 5th part of it is the remembering, where spirit puts us back together. We're infused with spiritual gifts. Our personal history is gone. Everything is gone. The clean slate, the rebirthing, the divine human is born with a mission of sacred activism to serve humanity, to help the liberation of those who are trapped in their own darkness and suffering, to remove the blanket of darkness that surrounds them, to be their own guru so they can remember the light who they are and allow that to shine out into the world. The biggest misconception that people have is we do not realize that we are gods in a physical body. We look outside ourselves to teachers, healers, to God and saints and all that. But we are made, the spark of God, the Creator, is in our soul. We are the light of God. We are made of the same elements of the cosmic universe, the building blocks of life. Why cannot you change? Why cannot you heal? The shamanic initiatory rite is a spiritual intervention that can really help you find your true self. Thank you for listening. I've been Daniel Riccardi.